People are getting this very wrong. Most people think that XRP is down because all of crypto is down. The altcoin market is suffering. And this is the simple explanation. Have a look at the XRP price at the top and the Bitcoin price at the bottom. The two tend to move in the same direction at the same time. So when Bitcoin crashes, XRP follows. But really, that's just part of the explanation, because over the last 2 weeks, XRP underperformed Bitcoin by roughly 9%. But is that potentially an opportunity? Because when we zoom out, we are seeing a long-term trading range. Sometimes XRP is expensive, sometimes it's cheap relative to Bitcoin. And that relative performance is not that much correlated with the Bitcoin price. So is that maybe an opportunity? Could XRP over the next weeks do better than Bitcoin again? And what could drive that outperformance? Hi, my name is Gerhard. I've been in the crypto space for the last 8 years. I hit my first million 3 years ago, and I did this mainly through active trading of altcoins. My track record is on the website down below. 2 years ago, I started to publish my trades in real time. We made 47% annualized with the open positions. We are currently at an all-time high, while everybody else is suffering massively. Now, on this website, we also see the entire trade history. So you can have a look at what kind of trades I do. I don't think that many people in crypto are willing to share their performance and the history like that. Now, XRP is currently close to $1. And Brett Garlinghouse calls $5 a very low price target. Others are comparing XRP to gold and how money might be flowing from the gold market to XRP. So why not compare the two? Here is the XRP price relative to the gold price over time. And yes, XRP did actually long-term outperform. This chart starts in 2013, so that's now 13 years ago. But over the last 9 years, we tended to trade in a range. And we are again at the lower end of that range, with XRP potentially outperforming gold by close to 300% from here. This tends to happen in very quick moves. XRP appreciates quickly and then comes back down slowly. Then we get reasons to be bullish again, and then that fades. A permanent cycle of euphoria with subsequent declines. And those are big moves, right? This year is an underperformance of close to 80%. There's a lot of hope surrounding XRP on X.com. Could owning 2000 XRP make you a millionaire by 2028? Now, this channel has an account on X as well, formerly known as Twitter. I publish various data points regularly over here, so feel free to follow the right account. There are many fake accounts at Bitcoin Strat. That's the right one. Make sure you don't follow for any scam accounts. Now, in general, I like to compare any altcoin with the rest of the market, because again, we've got all of this correlation. When Bitcoin goes up, most altcoins go up. When Bitcoin goes down, most altcoins go down. So really what we want to know is, how does XRP do relative to the rest of the alts? When does it outperform? When does it underperform? Now, the medium-term chart does not look that great. Over the last year, XRP underperformed the rest of the altcoin market. This is XRP divided by others. Others is the market cap of all the altcoins that are not in the top 10. Now, XRP is in the top 10. Still, we saw an underperformance of 46%. Now, when we zoom out a little bit, the picture is very interesting. We've got a support around here. We've got a resistance around here. The rallies happen very quickly. And again, when there's no rally, XRP tends to rather get sold off. And we are in exactly such a period right now. So let's say we want to trade XRP actively. So we're not just buying and holding. We want to time the market somewhat. If we've got an asset that goes up very, very quickly and then tends to go down, we could potentially bet on a falling price as long as it goes down, and then have a stop loss, right? So we bet on a falling price and then have a stop loss relatively tight to that downward trend, that in case we do see a quick rally, we exit that position very fast. The alternative approach is to have a dormant buying order. So we only buy XRP once it had crossed some kind of threshold, once it goes above a certain price, because then, that's the assumption, we get a quick rally again that lasts for 100, 200%. So for example, let's say we are in this situation over here. XRP sells off. This is the trend. And then we would only be buying once we have clearly broken out of the trend and then take advantage of the subsequent rally. The alternative is we bet on a falling price right now, for example, and we will be exiting that short if we suddenly were to go above this resistance, which by the way is an outperformance of roughly 15-16%. So there's a way to manage this. When the pace of appreciation is very different from the pace of depreciation, we just have to manage the turnaround points. Now, unfortunately, XRP does have an inflating token supply. More tokens hit the market over time. There are many potential sources of demand for XRP, but 32% of supply is still in escrow, it's locked, and only 62% is circulating. The big bet is that XRP will get used in traditional finance because of its technical superiority to Bitcoin and Ethereum. And of course also in comparison to the traditional banking system. Unfortunately, the reality is that on-chain we don't see real adoption. This is the TVL, the total value locked on XRP, measured by DeFi Llama. It peaked at roughly 120 million 1 year ago and since then fell to 36 million. Here is the chain revenue over time. That used to be at around $10,000 a day. Now it's just at a few $100s. The token inflation long term does matter, as in XRP peaked at very similar heights compared to the ICO bubble in 2018. The market cap though, that went way higher this time because it took more money to reach the same price, simply because the circulating supply grew. Here's what you can do to watch the circulating supply in real time. You enter XRP and specifically CryptoCap:XRP. That gives us the market cap of XRP, and then we just divide this by crypto:XRP USD. So how many XRP tokens are actually circulating? We hit enter and that's our chart. Over the last year, the XRP supply has grown by 5.6%. This compares to Bitcoin supply expansion that only is 0.8% per year. The supply expansion really is the reason why XRP has such a hard time outperforming other asset classes. It just goes in tandem with most assets. Now what's interesting is that the sentiment around XRP is relatively stable over time. So this here comes from Lunar Crush. It measures various social media outlets and it checks, are currently the posts and comments around XRP rather bullish or rather bearish? Are people optimistic or pessimistic? And this tends to, very long term, be very stable at around 75% being bullish. This does not go up and down with the price. But there are metrics that go up and down with the price. For example, here, the number of social mentions over time. How much engagement do we have surrounding XRP? Or here, how many creators are talking about XRP? So it's not necessarily true that it's the best time to buy an asset when everybody is scared, when everybody is fearful, when the sentiment is low. It's rather better to buy an asset when nobody talks about the asset. And that's actually the hard part. Because if nobody discusses the asset, it's also very unlikely that we will buy the asset, right? Our thoughts are very much linked with what we see in social media. And if nobody talks about it, then we might not even consider to buy something. And so that's why it's so hard to beat the market. We have to buy when nobody thinks about it, and we then suddenly should think about it. The strongest social indicator is just activity. It is not sentiment. Now another indicator is trading volume. This is now on the perpetual futures. So how much are levered bets getting traded for XRP? This is high when the price shoots up. This is low when the price is low. Currently, the trading volume is not historically low, but it's definitely not as elevated as it was a few months ago. The short-term traders, right? So this is what the perpetual futures is all about. They are less optimistic today than they used to be a few years ago. The funding rate tended to be positive most of the time. So the longs had to pay the shorts. The people that were betting on rising prices were okay to pay a premium to get levered exposure. That's not true anymore. Now the number of bulls versus bears is much more balanced. The people that have money on the line, they are not as bullish anymore. The social media landscape might look like everything is the same, but the short-term traders, they don't necessarily agree. This here is open interest, as in how much leverage is currently in the asset. How many bets are made on the XRP price. And there is positive correlation here as well, as in the more people bet on the asset, the higher the price goes. And once that leverage exits the asset, then the price tends to decline. Currently, we are again not at historical lows in terms of open interest, but we are definitely not elevated either. Now, as usual, I ran a backtest trying to figure out what's the best way to trade XRP versus Bitcoin, and here is the result. We are looking for moving average crosses, so a slow moving average versus a fast moving average, and the best combination historically would have been the 3 and 6 day simple moving average, even when we include the trading fees. And so that's then how that looks like over time. We need to get a golden cross, right? The short-term moving average going above the long-term moving average, that's when we are bullish. And whenever the short-term goes below the long-term, that's when we are bearish. And those short moving average durations, that's historically worked the best. Now, this is for extremely active trading, but it can also be used for longer-term positions just to find potential entry and exit points. As in, if you want to reduce our exposure, we might want to wait for the death cross. If you consider to add exposure, we might want to wait for the golden cross. Currently, XRP short-term seems to be rather bearish. I like this approach in general with my trading. That's why the track record looks the way it does. Here, for example, I have once shorted XRP versus Ethereum. So I bet on a falling price of XRP and then bought Ethereum against that as a hedge. We can actually filter for the XRP trades. And of course, not every trade is a moneymaker. I made 8%, I lost 8%, and then I won 10%. This is all without leverage. The average performance per trade I made was 4.9% over 182 trades. And on average, I held 26 days. And so those relative valuation trades combined with the best moving average backtests, that has really helped me. So I always look out for when do we get a potential death cross to bet on a falling price. And then when do we get the golden cross to either bet on a rising price or to just close the short position. And so below this video, there's now a link to the following website where you can just enter your email and you will get one of the premium trades for free. No credit card is needed, no payment is needed. Just put in your email, I will send you that free trade and I'll continue to send more value, exclusive reports, exclusive free premium tutorial videos. And once you've made some money with that content, you can of course subsequently also consider to join premium and get all the value. If you don't have time for manual copy trading, there's also an automatic copy trading pool, but that's available for the annual subscribers. Currently, we are at 21% annualized. Last year, we got 44. I work hard on getting us to 44% this year again. So yeah, it does look like XRP is currently cheap. That's true relative to gold. That's true relative to Bitcoin as well. But it probably makes sense to at least wait until we get the golden cross between the 3-day SMA and the 6-day SMA, just to find an optimal entry point, because historically that strategy outperformed buying and holding by roughly 35 percentage points per annum. If it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish here regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time. Cheers.